this week's episode of Sports Talk with JWock, I might be talking about one of the weirdest quote-unquote sports I've ever heard of, and I'll also be discussing more of round one of the NBA playoffs, and I'll also be going over the NFL draft. So tune in right after the intro. Thank you for tuning in to podcast number 95 of Sports Talk with JWock. I am your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and like I kind of hinted from last episode, we're going to be talking about a random sport or quote-unquote sport that may be considered a sport according to Google, which obviously, apparently Google is always correct, which is obviously not true, but we're going to be talking about a random sport. We're also going to be doing some NBA playoffs talk along with also what went down this last weekend, which was the NFL draft. So let's first start with, it's podcast number 95. I can't believe we're already 95 episodes into this podcast. It truly has been such an incredible journey. And I can't thank the Lord enough for helping me just continue to run this podcast. And also, I can't thank you guys enough for your continuous support and just helping me grow this channel and just continue to improve. But first, let's shout out one of my favorite numbers, 95, and one of my favorite fictional characters, Lightning McQueen. I know this is way off topic, but hey, Lightning McQueen, one of the most iconic fictional characters, one of the greatest athletes of all time. If we're talking about fictional characters, Lightning McQueen, a 7-time Piston Cup champion, tied for the most ever, tied with Strip Weathers, aka the King, and Chick Hicks. So shout out to Lightning McQueen. I'll show a picture of literally what I'm looking at. You guys can't see it, but on the other side of the screen here is literally a whole display of car stuff that I've grown up with and just posters. So it truly is incredible. I am a huge Cars fan, so I just wanted to shout out Lightning McQueen quick. It's obviously something that we're not going to be, discussing for very long, but I just wanted to shout out Lightning McQueen. Childhood hero for me. But anyways, let's get on to some real stuff, or maybe not real stuff, let's get on to a random sport. As last episode, I said I was going to try to find a random sport or quote-unquote sport that might be considered a sport, and should we consider it a sport? And I tell you what, this sport has to be one of the weirdest sports that I've ever researched, and it's called wife carrying. And some of you are going to be like, excuse me, what? Yes, it is literally called wife carrying. According to Google, it's a sport with Finnish roots where male competitors navigate a 253.5 meter obstacle course while carrying a teammate, or quote unquote their wife. So this is just such a weird sport. And I was when I was doing research, I literally looked up random sports, and this one just really popped up in my head. I was like, this has got to be something that I've got to, talk about, because I just feel like it's just so funny. And I'll be putting pictures up of kind of what goes down during this sport. I won't be doing any clips, but I'll show some pictures of just kind of how it goes and just how interesting the format is. But here's kind of the rules and details of this. So first off, for the course, like I mentioned earlier, is 253.5 meters with 2 dry obstacles and a water hazard. So not only does the husband have to carry through some dry obstacles, which are probably the easier parts, they also have to carry through water hazards, which is going to make things incredibly difficult. And must I remind you, the carry, the way they have to hold, the wife does not need to be legally married to the carrier, but must be over 17 years old. So technically, it doesn't have to be the wife, but I think it's better if it is the wife, just because, it really could you could see a lot of arguments. We need mic'd up moments during these races, in my opinion, but for the weight, the minimum weight has to have 49 kilograms, which is about 108 pounds. So they do have to have at a minimum weight of 108 pounds. So you can't be less than 108 pounds. They must wear a backpack containing extra weight to total 49 kilograms. Or, sorry, if they weigh less than 49 kilograms or 108 pounds, they have to wear a backpack with weights on it just to get that exact weight or higher, which just makes it significantly funnier. There are some penalties if you do drop the teammate. So if the husband drops the quote-unquote wife, that adds a 15-second penalty to their end timing, which makes things interesting. So you definitely want to hold on. So some of the holding methods, it says common methods include piggyback, fireman's carry, or the favored Estonian carry, where the partner hangs upside down on the back with legs crossed in front. Literally, like, I got to give credit to the women in this. Like, the fact that the blood rushing through your head when you are literally just on the back of your teammate, just like upside down the whole entire race, has to be probably one of the worst feelings. You just feel so lightheaded over time. I guarantee you afterwards their face is just pure red as a tomato. But there is prizes to this sport if you win. So winners typically receive the carried person's weight in beer along with other prizes. So obviously you win the race, now you get a ton of beer, which I guess is a great incentive for some of you. And I think that's just funny how, like, hey, you win, you get a bunch of beer now. So it's just an interesting situation. I'm sure there's probably either cash prizes or something else with it as well. But in my opinion, like, the training in this has to be crazy. I mean, like, because like this is not just training for the male, like this is training for the female to be able to not only be able to withstand having their face basically upside down if they do the traditional style of carrying, but also the core strength, the strength in their legs, just to be able to also hold on to the husband is very interesting, and I find it hilarious. And in my opinion, do we consider this a sport? Probably not, but I think it does take a ton of physical activity, which means you do have to be pretty athletic to be doing this quote-unquote sport. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think wife carrying should be considered a sport? And if so, let me know why. And would you try this with your significant other? Let me know down below in the comments. But let's get on to the NBA playoffs. As the playoffs have gone down, we're still in round one. We only have one team that has moved on so far, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're the only team to sweep in the first round. They sweep the Phoenix Suns. The Oklahoma City Thunder have gone under a lot of heat as of recent with the foul calling and the foul baiting, which has been a problem for years now. But the Oklahoma City Thunder, it feels like this year and last year even, have really just kind of exploited that, where they really are foul baiting. I think it's bad, but I also think it could be worse. I think there are players that are worse, but let me know what you guys think down below. So yeah, OKC, they sweep the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers and the Rockets are actually playing tonight as I'm recording this on Wednesday, April 29th. The Lakers currently lead 3-1. Austin Reeves, I think, has a chance of playing tonight, so that could be interesting. Kevin Durant also has just not been playing. Out of these 4 games, he's only played 1, so things could get interesting. I think the Houston Rockets take this game. I do think the Lakers will pull away with this series. I think it's absolutely insane that people are saying that if LeBron helps lead the Lakers past the Rockets in the first round, that somehow that puts him over the top of the GOAT debate and stuff. I think that's just ridiculous, but that's just my opinion. The Timberwolves and the Nuggets, they play tomorrow on Thursday. The Timberwolves go up on a 3-1. If you guys didn't check out my bracket on Instagram based off of the playoffs, I have the Nuggets winning the finals. So I'm definitely sweating a bunch right now, hoping that the Nuggets can pull out this series. I still think they can because Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo are both out of the rest of the series. DiVincenzo's out for the rest of the playoffs, unfortunately, due to an Achilles tear. And Naz Reid now went down with an injury. I don't know if he'll be out on Thursday, but that's something to monitor. And then we also saw the San Antonio Spurs gentlemen sweep the Portland Trailblazers 4-1. Victor Wembanyama looks unstoppable, and they play the winner of the Timberwolves-Nuggets series, so that could be very interesting. And I hope the Nuggets win for the sake of we want more competitiveness. Anthony Edwards not being fully healthy, DiVincenzo being out, and just a banged-up Timberwolves team would not be fun to watch going against a healthy and dangerous Spurs team. But anyways, that's the Western Conference. Things are getting interesting. The Western Conference definitely looks like whoever comes out of the West is probably going to win the finals, but you never know. as we go to the Eastern Conference, where we have some interesting situations. And let's start with the number 1 seed, Detroit Pistons, currently in a pickle right now, down 3-1, as I believe Orlando and Detroit are playing today, which is going to be an interesting situation considering the fact that if Detroit loses this game, they're done. And in my opinion, it's just sparking big debates because, in all honesty, Cade Cunningham needs help. He needs help, and the guy that was supposed to bring the most help, Jalen Duren, has not been like that, and he's going to be a free agent this offseason, so that's something to monitor. And I think the Magic could pull out this series. I really do. The number 2 seed Boston Celtics are up 3-2 against Philly. Last night, Philly ends up pulling out the win. Joel Embiid puts up 33 points to keep Philly's season alive, as Boston looks to continue to try to close out this series, which I think they will probably next game. The New York Knicks, after a little bit of a pickle, are now leading 3-2. These last 2 games, they've kind of blown out the Hawks. I think the Hawks ran out of gas, and unfortunately, I think their run is going to be over, but it was a fun run for sure. And then for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are tied actually with the Toronto Raptors 2-2. I believe they also play tonight. That's going to be an interesting series. I thought the Cavs were going to be able to pull away with this, but Toronto's defense is continuing to prove me wrong. And like I said, that series is tied 2-2. And that's going to be a fun game and a fun series to keep an eye on. But anyways, that's going to be all of the first round of the NBA playoffs. But let's get on to the final topic, a topic that I feel like I haven't been talking about enough as of recent, and that's honestly my fault. I haven't been paying much attention. But the NFL draft was last weekend. We saw some very surprising picks. We also saw some very good picks, some very great value picks, like Mekhi Lemon. I believe that's his name. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if that's exactly his name, but the wide receiver from USC getting drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. An absolute steal, by the way. The Eagles I just feel like the Eagles always seem to have just unbelievable drafts, and that's honestly why they've been so good throughout the years, is just because they just know how to draft players, like really good players. Even if like A.J. Brown, who's been rumored to be traded, or he's going to be traded to the Patriots as the rumors are showing, if he gets traded, now they have insurance, and Devonta Smith is going to be able to take an even bigger leap, which I think is very exciting if you're an Eagles fan. But anyways, that was a great pick. But one of the biggest surprises from the NFL draft, which you guys have probably already heard of, was the Los Angeles Rams taking quarterback from Alabama, Ty Simpson, 13th overall in the first round. I mean, talk about something that is definitely was probably not Sean McVay's favorite move. As you could tell from the press conferences, you could definitely tell he was a little surprised and probably not the happiest with the pick. But overall, I think it's actually a good move for the Rams, believe it or not. I might be in the minority for that. I understand the Rams are trying to win now, but like I've seen articles talking about, should the Rams have gotten Matthew Stafford another weapon? It's like, do they need another weapon? I mean, they have Puka Nacua, they have Devontae Adams, and company. Like, they have so many good weapons. I don't think they need another weapon. I think it is a good idea to go get some insurance, especially since this is probably Matthew Stafford's last season. You already have an excellent defense. You could probably win the Super Bowl with the current roster. You did not need to draft another positional player. Go out and get your replacement so that you aren't just going to be in this terrible situation once Stafford retires. So I'm actually thinking that the Ty Simpson pick was a good pick. And then also, as you guys know, the number 1 pick goes to Fernando Mendoza. He's getting drafted to the Los Angeles Raiders. And the big question now is, will he be a starter most of the season, or will he be benched basically all season or most of the season regardless? I personally think it'll be like half and half. It'll kind of depend. It's very much going to depend on how Kirk Cousins, who was recently signed by the Raiders, it'll just depend on his performance and how much the Raiders are succeeding as a team. I think if it's like they're kind of trending downwards, they're not playing very well, I could see Kirk Cousins just getting benched and them going, okay, Mendoza, we're just going to go through the growing pains. We're going to play you and just let you kind of operate and develop. which I think is a smart decision anyways. That's kind of how the Patriots did it with Drake May, and that's panned out very well. I'm not saying Fernando Mendoza is going to be like Drake May or even close to Drake May, but I think the Raiders need to play the smart. And honestly, unfortunately for Fernando Mendoza, he is going into a very tough division with some very good defenses, especially in the Chargers and the Broncos. So let me know how your favorite team did in the NFL draft. Give me a letter grade and give me a little explanation. And if you're excited about the NFL season, even though it feels like it's still forever away. But anyways, that's going to be the end of podcast number 95 of Sports Talk with JWock. Like I said, shout out to Lightning McQueen. Love that guy. But anyways, you guys can check me out on all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok I'm even on. You can check me out on all those platforms. If you want to get more news, I would recommend Facebook or Instagram. But you could check that all down below in the description. You could also like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.